Hey guys, well, it's late season in Arkansas deer hunting, and I thought before the season was completely out I would try to do an overview of vocal deer calls. That's been the latest greatest thing in the pursuit of whitetail deer lately. I have a feeling it goes back a long ways, back to the Native Americans. I don't know what their call was. I'm sure whatever it was subtle, and it wasn't as pathetic as my first call was, which when I was real young and desperate to kill a deer, it went something like this. Here, deer! Here, deer! There were some variations on that, but pretty bad, right? That's probably why I didn't kill my first deer until this year. Just kidding, but let's start with the nature of the whitetail deer. Whitetail deer are sneaky, very sneaky. They spend their life being sneaky, except for about a week to 2 weeks out of the year when the male deer, the buck, chases the doe to breed. And they go crazy. They go completely crazy. So a lot of the calls are built around that, but I want you to stick around until the end of this because I've developed a call that's the best in the world. No kidding. And it's based on the nature of a deer, which is to be sneaky, to keep their head down, to crawl through the brush quietly and try not to be detected. But let's go back. I think one of the first things to look at, where'd I put it, is the calls that have come out lately. These are buck and doe calls, and they're called a grunt call, and they go something like this. There are different variations. Pretty doggone boring, right? That's been kind of my luck with it. But doe and buck both will work into this call if you use it correctly. There are different variations of that. One of my favorite is a fawn call. And fawn calls are for both reasons, to get both a doe or a buck to come into your call. It's to sound like a fawn in distress. So you have your little tiny fawn early in the season. If you get really good with this call, you can make it sound like mama. That'll tear them up. A doe can't resist that. The buck will come in, just see what's going on, check on the little one. You never know. And later in the season, if you turn it around, it's a little deeper sound. That'll kill them. That'll kill them. So that's the fawn call. But the overall best that you can do, especially during the rut season, when the bucks are already out there looking for doe, what happens, and even pre-rut, they decide to start battling with each other for dominance. So a lot of people use deer antlers. A lot of them are made out of plastic now, kind of sissified. This is an old spike that was killed about 30 years ago, and it does pretty good. It's to sound like two buck that are in a fight. So along with it goes a lot of stomping and mashing the brush and thrashing around. But you want that contact sound like two buck are hunting. But I got thinking about this. This kind of pathetic, and most of the guys use something like this, or they've got ceramic ones that they rub together. It makes a clicking sound. But I've done best lately. I figured if a little, like a spike antlers worked, that you might as well go with bigger antlers. You always want it to sound like You were wanting to call in a good deer, right? A couple of good deer. These things sound terrific, and you get all the resonance out of the skull and the nasal passages, the sinuses, the orbits for the eyes, zygomatic arch, the nuchal crest, all those fancy words, and they sound like this. Oh, crap. You scratch it in the ground, that sort of thing. These work great, but let me tell you, you better wear lots of orange when you go through the woods carrying this, because somebody is going to shoot you. Which brings up the ultimate call that I've developed, and I discovered this by chance. But it's a great call because of the nature of the deer. Remember what I told you, they're sneaky. They're sneaky animals, they have to be. They've got to dodge cars, right, and trucks. But sneaky animals, they're going through the brush like right outside of my blind here. It's just thick brush up about this tall. So a lot of times, unless you're really careful, you don't ever see the deer. They're creeping along. They don't stick their head up very often. So the trick is, what if we had a call to get them to stick their head up and look around and see, what was that? So I came up with one. Here we go, you ready? What that was? It works. I've used it all season this year. They can't resist it. That's a sound they've never heard. So they're creeping through the woods and you go, perfect. Get you an old jaw harp or a Jew's harp or a juice harp. Well, I don't know what the etymology of that is, but anyhow, get you a mouth harp and practice with it so you don't knock all your front teeth out, and try it on your next deer hunt. It's guaranteed.